Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WNR Body Transformation Podcast or my YouTube channel. Either ways, today I'm going to be covering an important topic on what exactly do people mean by train with good technique when it comes to building muscle. It's as simple as that. If you're listening to this on podcast, I would highly urge for you to watch it on YouTube because you're going to realize I'm going to be demonstrating my points with particular videos of me training basically so that I can get my scientific explanation across in a way that's easily digestible for most of the people out there. So yeah, but before we dive into the video, I would really appreciate it if you guys can like, share, and that would, or drop a comment below because it really helps me with the algorithm. And if you'd be kind enough to subscribe to my channel, you're just gonna get tons of free value basically. It's as simple as that. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. So what do people exactly mean by train with good technique? So in order for me to explain this point, I'm going to be explaining it with visuals of me training and with also me breaking down this topic into 5 simple points. The first topic being is that you simply need to train through a full range of motion, right? Now, what do I mean by a full range of motion? What is an exercise basically? It consists of 4 parts. No, well, for the benefit of the listeners and the viewers out there, I'm gonna be simplifying this further down. It consists of 2 main parts, right? Let's probably say when you perform a squat or when you perform a row, when you perform a chest press or a bicep curl or tricep extension. It's got 2 main parts basically, right? Let's take the example of how do I say this? A chest fly, as you can probably see in the video that I'm performing right now. On the way down, I'm lengthening my chest muscles, and on the way up, I'm contracting my chest muscles basically, right? Those are the 2 major parts that you need to be concerned with basically, right? Let's say when I go on the way down, there's also that extreme most stretch position in which I take a bit of a 1-second pause, right? That's the third part. And then when I go up, I take a nice little pause on top when my muscles are contracted. So technically the range of motion of a particular exercise is made up of 4 parts, and this is on every exercise. Be it a bicep curl. On the way down, you're stretching your muscles, you pause for a second at the bottom, and then on the way up, you're contracting your muscles, and when they're contracted, you pause and squeeze for a second on top basically, right? So if you simply stretch your muscles completely under load, that's going to be really beneficial for hypertrophy, which is building muscle, right? Most of the people don't just simply stretch their muscles under load basically, right? That sucks. Most of the people don't even do a leg press properly, right? They simply load up the leg press and they go 25% of the way down, right? You want to stretch your muscles properly, and you want to go all the way up where you're actually contracting the muscles as well, right? Now, when people say train with a full range of motion, that gives you a lot of muscle growth, hypertrophy, which is simply increment in muscle cell size basically, right? There's certain truth to that. Let me explain you why, all right? Training through a full range of motion under load is going to stretch the muscles under load. When you simply stretch the muscles under load, let me just break this down scientifically. The muscle fibers have something known as sarcomeres. So if you can picturize a rubber band which is being stretched under load, right? You create these small little micro tears, right? The sarcomere part of the muscle fiber is being stretched. Now, the body, in order to compensate, will add in more sarcomeres basically. That done consistently over a given period of time by training through a full range of motion, with heavier loads progressively, is simply going to add in more sarcomeres, which is simply adding in more, how do I say this, more tissue to the torn part of the stretched rubber band, and that simply causes muscle growth, right? So that's one pathway through which training through a full range of motion is going to be adding in more sarcomeres, right? That done consistently over a given period of time, along with proper recovery, proper protein intake, good nutrition, good sleep, etc. It's just going to fill in the missing gaps of the muscle tears created by the progressive resistance training that you're doing inside the gym. And now, let's say the muscle is stretched, the micro tears are there, But then you go back home, you have the right amount of protein, you sleep properly. That done consistently over a given period of time is going to cause muscle growth, right? That's in simplistic terms. Second, if you go through a full range of motion, let's probably see, as you can probably see in this video of me performing the chest fly, right? What most of the people do, they go quarter way down. They don't really go all the way down till they can really feel that deep stretch, basically, right? When you go all the way down, you're not only strengthening your muscle in its partial range, you're strengthening the muscle in its fullest possible range, as a result of which the joints, the tendons, the ligaments, and the muscle fibers get strong throughout the entire range, as a result of which this translates up to better force production on other exercises as well, right? Because now the muscle is strong in the shortened range as much as it's strong in the lengthened range, as a result of which you simply have a stronger muscle which is resilient to more damage, as a result of which you can lift heavier loads, and heavier loads consistently done over a given period of time simply cause more muscle growth, right? It's as simple as that. The last thing, let me just again demonstrate this point with a chest fly example, as you can probably see me perform in this video. When you go through a full range of motion, right, you activate the primary and the secondary muscle fibers, right? So primary is usually like fast twitch 1 muscle fibers, which are usually like endurance based, right? Secondary muscle fibers are like fast twitch 2 muscle fibers, which are usually like have the maximum potential for growth, and they are far more explosive based, all right? So what do I mean by this? I might be wrong right here, but this is what I've done the research. But let's say if you train in, it's usually the other way around, sorry, apologies, right? If you go through a fuller range of motion, right, you activate both the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscle fibers, as a result of which you're simply developing the muscle as a whole. Second, as you can probably see in the video of me performing the chest fly, right, on the cape, like on the pec deck basically, I'm going to be activating the fast twitch muscle fibers in the first few reps, and as the moment the set gets deeper, when I go through a fuller range of motion, it becomes a bit more endurance based, and the slow twitch muscle fibers also are activated, as a result of which that leads to complete development of the muscle. Also, like, you tend to work almost every aspect of the muscle. So how do I say this, right? When you're over here, the first thing that happens is you're moving around your shoulder joint. So the fibers begin to work over here. When you start going deeper and deeper, you maximally stretch these parts of the fibers. And as the moment you go deeper, the stretch begins to extend all the way from here to here to here, all the way up to the inner chest basically. And a lot of bros or dudes who go to the gym, they go like, I want to work my inner chest, right? You're going to work almost every aspect of that muscle just by simply going through a full range of motion. Slowing the way down while stretching the muscle, and fasten the way up. Let's go through a full range of motion. It's as simple as that, right? Secondly, on some exercises, like let's probably say a leg extension, as you can probably see in this video, right? I'm pausing for a second on top because that's where the maximum amount of tension is in the shortened position, right? For like the benefits of the way I train, I also like to pause in those positions where there's not that much tension, which is at the bottom of the leg extension, right? On some exercises like the hack squat, I'm pausing at the bottom because there's a fuckload of tension at the bottom, but I'm still keeping my muscles contracted, right? I don't pause that long on top. I just pause to take like a bit of a breath, right? But either ways, go through a full range of motion, pause in the lengthened position, pause in the shortened position, and go through a full range of motion. It's as simple as that. This is a scientific explanation as to why you gotta go through a full range of motion. Second, keep the motion nice and controlled, right? So the part of the lift where you're stretching the muscle, that's known as the eccentric part of the lift, right? And the part of the lift where you're contracting the muscle, that's known as the concentric part of the motion. Research shows that you're 4 times stronger on the eccentric compared to the concentric, right? So let's probably say you do like a chest press, as you can probably see in this video, right? On the way up, I'm not that strong basically, right? Because of which I'm struggling. But then even when I hit failure, right? Or when I'm close to failure, I can still keep it nice and controlled even when it's on the way down. Even though I don't feel like it, but physiologically I can still do it. Research shows that you're 4 times stronger. So let's probably say on the way up on a bench press, you can press 100 kilos. When you're gassed out on the way up, if someone were to lift off the bar for you and just have you control it on the way down, you can probably lift, I don't know, like 4 times more weight or 4 times more reps. I don't know, that would be a really weird analogy to give, but that's the point. A lot of people, they don't go slow on the way down. It's so fucking basic, right? Go slow on the way down, because that simply ensures that you're placing the muscles under more tension, like more time under tension. More time under tension has simply shown to cause more muscle growth, right? And the second thing, like when you simply going slow on the way down while you're lengthening the muscle, be it on the lat pull down, you're going slow on the way up and you're like lengthening the muscles, all right? When you're contracting the muscles, you don't want to go slow, because if you go so slow when you're contracting the muscle, which is like on the bicep curl, you're like going like so slow, right? That's in fact going to take from your muscle strength. You want to stay as stable as possible, but you want to be explosive, right? But you don't want to throw the weight up. You want to press it up at speed, but be stable at the same time, right? So I'm going to be demonstrating this in this video of me performing the machine chest press. I'm being explosive on the way up. Even the load is so heavy that it doesn't really allow me to be that explosive, but I'm like being as explosive as possible. So you simply being explosive is going to activate the fast twitch muscle fibers, which have the maximum potential for building muscle, right? And like when you go slow on the way down, you activate the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscle fibers. Not saying that the slow twitch muscle fibers are not going to be activated when you're in the concentric part of the motion, when you're contracting the muscle basically. But those explosive muscle fibers have the maximum potential for growth. Don't leave that on the table, right? But you always want to go slow on the way down basically, right? When you go slow on the way down, there's way more muscle damage. Research shows that when you go slow on the way down, you create way more small little micro tears in the muscles, all right? And when you go back home, you have the right amount of protein, your nutrition is on point, you're sleeping properly. You fill in those gaps, as a result of which you recover and new muscle tissue is accumulated. That's as simple as that, right? Second, when you go slow on the way down, or like when you're lengthening the muscle, or in a squat, like when you're going slow on the way down, or in a lat pull-up when you're going slow on the way up, you simply feel that like crazy burn, right? That crazy burn is like metabolites being accumulated in the muscle. Metabolites is like it's like the inflammatory response that's needed for you to grow muscle. It's more of like, in order for you to make a lot of money, you need to work so hard. And one of the byproducts of you working so hard is you're going to face a fuckload of mental fatigues, right? In order for you to make money, you got to work so hard that the mental fatigue accumulates basically. So that meant in metaphorical terms, the metabolites accumulated by going slow when lengthening the muscle during a particular lift, right, is like the metaphorical term of you just simply feeling the fatigue when you work really hard to make money basically, right? It's needed, right? So the more metabolites you can accumulate within the muscle cell by squeezing, contracting, by going slow on the way down, and when you go back home and when you recover and you clear up those metabolites with proper nutrition and proper sleep, you will get greater muscle growth. It's as simple as that, you know? So what are some of the metabolites? Hydrogen, lactic acid. It's as simple as that, right? You want to go slow on the way down, right? The third thing, you got to recruit the right muscle fibers with proper technique. Let's say you are squatting for the purpose of building your quadriceps, which is the front part of your thigh, right? But you are moving hell load around your hip joint, right? You're more of like a hip dominant squatter. Your knee joint is barely moving and there's way more movement around your hip joint, as a result of which you're going to get more glutes, as a result of which you're not going to develop your legs. And hence, in that particular case, you're better off using a hack squat, as you can probably see in this video. As you can probably see in this video, like there's less movement around my hip joint because my hips are like firmly planted against the pad. And there's far more movement around my like knee joint basically, as a result of which there's more movement around my quadriceps. Right? So this comes down to like understanding anatomy, understanding biomechanics, right? Let's probably say on this on this machine chest press, instead of just simply pressing it and causing way more movement on my shoulder joint, I'm elevating my rib cage, I'm pinching my shoulder blades back, I'm not flaring out my elbows too much, I'm slightly keeping it tucked in, taking the shoulders as much as I want out of the picture, and like pressing with my chest, as you can probably see in this video. So this takes some time, this takes some practice, and And you can skip the painful process just by like cheeky plugin by hiring a coach like me who understands biomechanics and anatomy really fucking well, right? But jokes aside, technique is really fucking important. But a lot of people oversee that. They think it's all about the diet. The fourth thing, keeping your technique in check even on the last few reps. A lot of people skip out on this, right? When the set gets hard, they begin to break down their technique even though they know they can keep their technique in check. Think of you training with proper technique as recruiting the right man for the job, and then when you start approaching towards failure, that's like putting those right men who are being recruited for the job under immense intense training so that they can actually perform the job properly when time comes. It's more of like taking traumatized men with like issues and then putting them through intense military training so that they can actually perform in war properly, right? So like you nailing a technique is going to keep you safe. It's going to protect you from injuries. It's going to recruit the right muscle fibers properly. But now when you recruited the right muscle fibers properly, you got to hammer the fuck out of them, right? It's more of like actually hitting them under load so that they swell up. It's as simple as that, right? So as you can probably see, the concentric part of the lift slows down when I start approaching failure, right? So whether it's the first rep or whether it's the last rep, the only thing that needs to be altered is the concentric part of the lift. You still want to go slow when you're like lengthening the muscles under load, the eccentric part of the lift, but the only thing that's going to slow down, which is when you're used to doing things explosively on the concentric, it's going to slow down. It's going to slow down. That's a part of the process, right? But you also got to realize, like, just because I've said you got to keep your technique in check when you're training towards failure, although this is not a how hard are you supposed to train sort of a podcast or a video, like just as a bonus for you guys, on things like machines, let's probably say like this machine chest press or like this hack squat or like a leg press, if you, like these are machines, you're like safely tucked in, as a result of which you're not like really gonna fail, or even if you do fail, you're gonna be relatively safe because these machines are gonna be so much more easier on your joints and they force you to stay in the right position. You don't really have to use stabilizer muscles as much as you performing a free weight exercise, right? So you got to keep in mind when it comes to machines and isolation exercises, you can really go balls out. You can train anywhere between the 1 to 0 reps in reserve. So you can leave like 1 rep in the tank in a set. You don't have to go to failure all out, or you can go to failure all out, whatever helps you psychologically. But when you're performing things like Romanian deadlifts, not the Romanian deadlifts, but when you're performing like more free weight exercises, the risk for injury tends to slightly go higher up. And if you're training towards failure and there's going to be like one like wrong movement right there, you can really like mess things up and put yourself at a huge risk. So my suggestion to those people out there who are doing free weight exercises, who've got a lot of free weights in their program, leave like 2 to 3 reps in reserve. So let's say you do a set of like 10 reps, right? You know you can do 13 reps, but you still stop at 10 reps basically. You left 3 reps in reserve, right? So reps in reserve is like the amount of proximity to failure. This concept is not like popularized by me. It's popularized by Dr. Mike Israetel, who's extremely intelligent. Someone like me, I like to train anywhere in the 2 to 0 rep in reserve because as and when you start training towards failure, right, it's extremely fatiguing even though you activate the entire musculature far more better, right? I'd rather leave like 2 reps in reserve basically and be more consistent and hit the gym more consistently for weeks on end rather than thinking like, bro, I'm going on war, let me just train as hard as possible. So yeah, last thing, you need to keep your rep quality consistent, right? A lot of people, when they start approaching failure, they start resting on the top or in the locked out position. Like let's probably say when you're doing a lat pull down, as you can probably see in this video, right? There's a lot of tension right here. There's not much tension on the top basically. So the person is going to go like, And then no. You got to keep your rep quality consistent. Don't rest up between reps. It's as simple as that, right? That simply places the muscles under constant tension, as a result of which that leads to more growth over a given period of time. So yeah, follow these 5 tips, and if you found this useful, right? Feel free to like, feel free to share, feel free to subscribe, and feel free to comment below. Just trying to put myself out there. And if you're someone who wants to transform their bodies by building healthy habits and by being educated so that you can get in shape for once and for all you got to do is fill in the application form below. So yeah.